Hi, Israel. It's finally here. It's lovely to have you. I already gave a brief introduction. This is Israel and Amandi is the co-host of today's webinar. Like I said earlier, welcome everyone to another episode of Tech Talk. We have Israel here. He will be taking us on a project management class. I hope you all enjoy the session, and Israel, you can have the floor, so you can start.
Thank you very much, Jay. Good evening, everybody, and it's nice to be here. I wouldn't take much of our time. I would just go straight into the activities for today. And I trust that at the end of this whole exercise, we should be able to, grab a thing or two that should be of benefit to our future endeavors. First things first, I will just go ahead to share my screen and then probably a brief introduction about myself, and we can take it up from there. While I try to do that, please let me know once you can see my screen. Let me have this on presentation mode. Just a minute. Can you all see my screen, please?
Yes, we can.
Oh, I
see right now.
I see loads of thumbs up, so yeah. Okay, bring it back up. I hope this is exactly what I want to show.
Yes, we can see it now. Yeah, you're good.
This probably does not look like what I want to show, but I hope it does justice to everything. Anyways, while I try to sort that out, let me just go ahead and give a brief introduction about myself. My name is Israel Amandi, and like Julie just said, I will be driving this whole webinar for the project management webinar, and I will just be talking on a high level about some concerns or some interesting topics around project management. Basically, I would do this in such a way that it's going to be beneficial to everybody, even if you're new to project management or if you're new to tech or IT. And I hope that this becomes very collaborative, such that at any point in time, if you find it very, if you find the communication a bit challenging, you can just put a question in the comment section, and afterwards, behind the whole slide, I will take a few of them one after the other. That's okay. I just need thumbs up if communication is clear. Still having troubles actually trying to activate a slideshow for this, but just pardon me, I would be able to sort that out in no time. Most of us are used to PowerPoints and the likes. Jide or anybody, maybe Dami, if you can just guide me on where to click for this, that would help me just navigate this faster.
So I think you should just click the document. We can see, yeah, the document itself. We can see recent, so just click the document. Yeah.
Yeah, it opens and then let me stop sharing the previous one, share this instead. So, but I want a slideshow.
So to your top right, click play.
Okay. Cool stuff. Awesome. Thank you very much. Yes, so here we are. I hope this is good. So the topic for this webinar is just simply project management in a nutshell, and we'll be unlocking the power of Scrum in project management, basically. I've been with the industry for quite some time, and as I earlier mentioned, my name is Israel Amandi, and this is not new. And I would promise you that it's It's a never-ending journey of learning and experiencing more and more in this space. First things first is I try to, as much as possible, introduce the mindset strategy to everyone, wherein I educate you and tell you, please have an open mind towards tech, have an open mind towards project management, because nobody is new to project management, if you ask me. Everybody has managed the project in one way or the other. The only difference is you probably were not managing it in tech. But this time around, you'll be introduced to what it feels like managing a project in tech. So I would, I have actually just listed a few topics on a high level, and I will talk about them briefly. I might not cover everything I listed here, but just so you have visibility on the kind of things that can actually go in or out of project management as far as project management is concerned, right? So we'll take the slides one after the other. I would speak on most of these topics, and for some I would skip. The reason why I'm skipping most of them is because this is not a deep dive session, and if we want to go into a deep dive session, I will take most of your time, and actually that's not healthy, so we don't get ourselves all confused and stuff like that. So yes, first things first, definition of project management. On a layman's side, I will tell you project management is just an ability for you to be able to manage a project, right? But then again, that's me using same words to define something. It doesn't make any sense. But here's what it really is. Okay, project management is just a scenario wherein you're able to, plan ahead of a risk, be able to validate what kind of risk would happen, the outcomes, manage situations around expectations of whatever kind of delivery. It might be tech, it might be home service, it might be whatever it is. As long as there's an expectation, there's a goal to be achieved, what you need to do and put in place to set expectations straight and achieve that same specific goal. This whole step end to end is actually called project management. Now, for a better context, I understand that most people consider project management to be very, 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 very broad. Yes, and at the same time, no. Yes, in the sense that it is broad if you look at it from a point of view where you feel limited by capacity. And no, in the sense that Scrum and Agile and the belief that being open to attacking what you currently know helps you make progress. Like viewing the next step helps you get to the next one. That's why project management might not be considered to be so broad and complex. Now, what are the importance of project management in modern business? If you ask me, I will tell you the primary importance of project management is to be able to achieve your goal, simple and short. Whatever you do from initiation, planning, and your whole risk validation and goal is just for you to be able to achieve the desired goal for which you made an investment, right? Now, that varies from company to company, okay? A goal of a particular project could just be the desire to have an objective met, while a different goal could just be to make profit when it comes to business, or to actually achieve a level to meet a next step. So if you have 10 steps of a particular solution to be delivered, for example, since we're in the space of tech, let's use delivering a mobile application as an example. Now, an end-to-end delivery of a mobile application can be considered a project, right? But in between each of these steps are also little bits of projects. So designing the application on its own is a project, right? Developing the application, it's a project. Testing the application is a project. And then the whole application, all the steps together, is also considered a project. So you have stages in which project management becomes a project management for project management. So I know that might be kind of confusing, but all I'm trying to say is every step of the way in whatever you need to do to achieve a goal is you experiencing and practicing project management. if you can think about it, if you can think of how to deliver it, if you can think of how to avoid mistakes or how to learn from mistakes, it's all part of project management. Now, a brief overview of project management methodologies. I would not talk about so many of them, but I will tell you about the one that's currently trending today. Methodologies like waterfall and agile, right? Yes, we all know waterfall is, some kind of, in a layman's terms, step-by-step process of delivering a project. So you have step one, probably an initiation part of it, or business analysis part of it, or a plan, depending on what it is. But these steps are interconnected such that you can't skip one step and go on to the next. You will definitely fail at the end of the project. But you must, at every point in time, determine that for you to actually go to step 2, step 3, or step 4, you must have gone through the preceding step. Now, the other part of the methodologies I mentioned, which is agile, is in layman's terms, like I mentioned, an open-minded kind of process wherein you work with as little as you already know. So if you're actually trying to implement, for example, a mobile application like I initially mentioned, this factor which let's say you designed it, okay? Or first and foremost, what do we need to do to build an application? Now, someone might get up and say, we need a development team, we need a QA team, we need a BA, we need stakeholders, we need all of these things. First and foremost, what's the first thing that we can actually get? The first thing we can actually get is an idea that works, right? Good. So let's get an idea that works, look at it, validate that the idea is achievable, then look for what part of that idea can be achieved at first. Now, understanding that is what helps you move in agile. Most times in the industry we're in today, some persons or some individuals believe that agile is basically about Scrum. And in most cases, I beg to differ, but this is that forum where we can have those discussions, but that will be when we take a deep dive into the main session. But I need you to always understand that, as the word implies, agile is you just being active, right? What can we just go with and get results? Break it to the barest minimum, to as little as possible, such that you're able to get quick results, and turnaround time is much more simpler and faster than you have for the waterfall method. So in waterfall, you have fixed period of delivery, you have fixed processes, you have fixed timeline. It's much more cheaper if you ask me, but in agile, it's much more expensive because expectations are high, things can change, there are potential variables, your plans could just change in the nick of time. You could have impacts that might affect your decision-making process and things like that. So when we take a deep dive in the project management course itself, we would be discussing all of that with real-life examples. Now, talking about key concepts in project management, we talk about project scope, objectives, and goals. I would want to say that somehow these are very, very similar words, right? Because the scope of your project is actually what needs to be done, right? The objective of your project is what needs to be achieved, and the goal is actually the outcome, right? Why are you actually doing this? What needs to be done? And when you begin to talk about this, it then takes you to the questions where you ask the why, the what, and the when, right? Why do I want to solve this problem? When do I have to solve this problem? What do I need to do to actually solve this problem? That's how you're able to, define your project scope, the objectives that needs to be met, and the goals that validate either a successful project or a failed project. Now, going on to talking about stakeholder management, please, once again, pardon me, I might be too fast, but I beg you or crave your indulgence For anything I say that you don't, that you need better clarity on, please drop a question in the comment section and I would address that. But if I'm unable to address that, that's me telling you, get onto Declarator and we will give you a deep dive of what needs to be understood. Now, talking about stakeholder management, there's a whole lot that encompasses stakeholder management. I will tell you for one that it's quite dicey. If you ask me, it's really dicey. Stakeholder management is you being able to manage stakeholders. For everything I say on this training, you would find me using words that have already been stated as definition for those words. So when you talk about stakeholder management, your stakeholder could be whoever is part of that project is a stakeholder. The person might just be an idea generator, the person might be the person financing the project, the sponsors, or it might be your customers. It could just be anybody, as long as they are related in the benefits end to end of that project. It could be a beneficial input or output. They are stakeholders. And the way you manage each stakeholder differs. The way you manage stakeholders who are part of delivering the project differs from the way you manage stakeholders who are sponsors to that project. And as well, it differs from the way you manage stakeholders who are beneficiaries from that particular project. I'll give you an example, a brief example. So talking about managing sponsors, for example, every sponsor wants to see a return on investment, right? While stakeholders who are part of the delivery talk about, say, the development team, everybody wants to get paid for their inputs. And then talking about the clients or the customers or your market, right? Everybody wants a product that solves a problem. Now, the hat you need to wear to manage all the stakeholders differs. And that's where project management becomes very, very, very key to every area of life as it entails, regardless tech, hospitality, and every industry. Over to project life cycle phases. This is a whole lot, beginning from initiation, planning, budgeting, there are a whole lot of it. And then risk management. Sorry about the noise in my background, please. Something is happening around my environment, and apologies for that. It's just the maintenance happening in my environment. But yes, so it's a life cycle that actually defines the start and end of a project. This gives you clarity as to when decisions should happen, changes should go into place, and when to close out on a project. Like I mentioned, concepts of what we are bringing in this training would just be on a high level. But please feel free to ask questions. Now, project management processes, which are the same formations of life cycle, which I was talking about: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, control, and then being able to close that project. This you would also find in details with practical example on our Declarator trainings, right? But I know if you must have heard before, initiation might just sound like you just starting up a project. No, I beg to differ. Initiation it actually encompasses ideation, it encompasses validating that idea. You understand whatever it needs to plan for that project. We're talking about resourcing and all of those things. All of these contributing factors come in play when you talk about initiation. After having all of that, then you can go on to plan for them. So for example, what do I mean? You can't plan for a development team if you don't know what kind of development team you need. You can't plan for a project to be delivered at a particular budget if you don't know what needs to be achieved from that project. So everything that kicks off that needs a start part of its own execution to be accomplished comes into play when you're at that initiation phase. And then you move over to planning when you have to plan both your resources, your outcome, expectations, how you're going to drive it, what budget and costing should be in place. All of those things go into planning. And then execution, basically, like I said, in waterfall, these steps will go together one after the other. You wouldn't have to skip any, but they can actually run in parallel when you're doing agile. It's about you initiating the very little steps which you understand and planning for as far as you can go. And once you've been able to accomplish or deliver, in quote, I've not mentioned this in this training, but an MVP. On a high level, an MVP is a minimum viable product, right? That's a result that comes out of delivering a particular project, no matter how little that project is. It might just be for you to, let's say, you waking up in the morning and going to work. Project. The whole phase of your life, from when you wake up, you time yourself to go into the bathroom, have your bath, come outside, have your breakfast, and then still get to work before 8 a.m. That's you planning, starting your initiation and every other thing. In most cases, you would find some persons who would say, okay, I need to be at the office at 8 a.m. and my clothes are not ironed, and you have a friend somewhere or a flatmate or someone who then goes ahead to help you iron this while you are actually in your washing, right? So that's just you being agile. That's just you kind of separating the delivery concern. Sorry about the noise in my background. Let me just quickly go over that, and then execution happens, monitoring happens, and control, and then you finally close that project. The next slide talks about project management tools. Many of us might be familiar with this. There's the Gantt charts, the work breakdown structure, which is usually used as WBS. There's the Kanban boards, which is most familiar for projects that run with both the Agile and kind of a mix of Kanban and Agile. And then you have project management softwares like Trello, Asana, Jira. There are a whole lot of them. And I tell you one funny thing. If you are used to GitHub, for those who are used to GitHub, GitHub actually does practically everything you find here, right? But that's a discussion and a learning. You get the magic detail about all of that at the main Declarator trainings. I must tell you this, that part of the training that would be happening with Declarator would even help you save costs and teach you how to educate stakeholders on cost management. And when I say cost management, I'm talking about focusing on what solutions matter, focusing on what tools to use, what tools would actually help you achieve that project beyond beyond just the goal of the overall project, saying, okay, I want to deliver a mobile application. Okay, you want to deliver a mobile application, what tools can we actually use to ensure that this meets exactly what is expected and in the need inside? All right. That being said, that would take us over to a case study for real life application. If you want me to give an example on this, please let me see a thumbs up. So this is not just me, pushing out a whole lot of information and nobody's able to understand it. Can I get 1 or 2 thumbs up? That should help us go further. So I know that I've not been speaking to myself. Can anybody hear me? Are we all together?
Yes, we can hear you. Ernest someone was raising their hand, but they have it down now. Or you can continue.
Okay.
Okay, he's raising his hand again. Sorry. Ernest, do you have a question? You can speak. Are you there?
Hi,
Okay,
Ernest. You
not seeing anything.
have a
We can
question.
we can go on. It's fine. If you have a question, Ernest, just drop it in the Q&A box, and it will be attended to. All right.
Okay, so I'll give a very small example of a project I have worked on and the challenges I faced and how I overcame all of them. And I must tell you that, take it from me today, that no two projects are the same. Delivering a mobile app that does the same solution, right, that serves the same purpose, does not have the same strategy in terms of delivery, right? You have the human factor to it, you have costing, you have economic impacts, changes, and things like that. So no two projects are the same, okay? Now, the project I would talk about is one I did for a company in 2022 where I came in as a project manager for a small team at first. And I think one of the things I realized at that time is that a solution architect was brought into the project and we were struggling to find our feet, right? If you're used to the tech industry, you would find out that there's this common character that happens in tech industries where you see individuals who feel that experience over time cannot change, right? And then they forget to understand or realize that innovation is that change that tech has always been about. So we were kind of struggling with getting to start the project because a design architecture was required, and everybody, we had loggerheads with the solution architect that was introduced and a solution architect that was hired as a developer on the development team. So we had those conversations where first solution architect says, "Oh, this is the best way to go about this," and the other guy is like, "Why do you want to use this solution when this is faster?" Right? So we had that back and forth, and at some point, we had meetings for a week, and we're not making progress. All right, and usually, the human factor in us would say, "Well, I am just paid to do my job, so whenever they make decisions, we'll proceed." But then again, a failed project is a failed project if you do not act as a project manager. You should be able to have the foresight to say, "Okay, I think this project, if we keep quiet, we're actually going to fail because we are already going against time. We did not plan that we would have a back and forth for 1 week. We planned that this whole conversations around solution architecture, design pattern, and all of that would not take more than 2 days. And here we are 1 week. This is definitely going to impact delivery." So what did I propose then? I proposed, why don't we actually leave Agile, right? We all claim we've learned about Agile. We understand what Agile is all about. Why don't we practice Agile? Now, solution architect A, from this point to this point, you're clear about what we want to achieve. And he's yes. The B, do you have an objection to this? Oh, no, I don't have an objection, but at point this there's a, and I said, okay, fine. We've been able to identify that from this point to this point, there are no issues. Let us start with this. Let's start with what we understand. Now, at the point we kept implementing and going further, there came up that room where everybody had to just harmonize. Okay, developers could say, "This is what I've encountered writing this code." QAs could say, "This is what I've encountered testing this." And ideas began to come out. And then for each sprint, we began to talk about what's the next small thing we can achieve. And at the end of the day, yes, I wouldn't tell you about the very, very struggling part, even though there were so many of them, right? Like being able to manage stakeholders and tell them, okay, this is no longer the route we're going to take. We might need to expand costing around, budget constraints and all of that. We might need to hire more developers because the developers we had were developers who could actually write in what's it called? In Java, but what we needed was developers that could actually write a different language. Okay, that doesn't mean the ones you could do in Java were not relevant. They were, but there were certain parts of this delivery that required different languages, and these guys were not specialists in those. Now, the only thing we could do to adjust in all of these things were to say, okay, while we have this other new guys, we wouldn't hire as much as we need, would hire a few to kickstart that phase of the project, while those who are key in Java, because programming at some point, if we all understand how it works, is understanding the basics, right? Since they understand the basics of coding, they could actually grab the other languages and everybody can move along. So we solved that part of the problem. Now, there are so many other problems we had to solve, but we didn't allow those problems delay kicking off this project. We were able to move from each phase, solve an issue, get an MVP, get an achievement, be able to communicate with stakeholders that this is what we've been able to do. This was where we are as of the last sprint. This is where we are now, and this is what we need to move further. So yes, that's one real life application of project management, and the methodology which we used was agile. We had to migrate from, believing that we had to do waterfall into using agile. And most of the tools we used there was, I will tell you, we operated a Kanban board, and as well we operated a normal Scrum board, wherein for every sprint, for the development, we had a Scrum board, right? And for the whole overall project, we were actually delivering details on that on a Kanban board. Now, let me go over to the next one so I don't keep all of us here. Best practices in project management: communication, risk management, time management, and resource management. For what is what, communication is at the top of it for a reason, because without communication, your project has 90% chance of failure. You need to communicate at every single time. You need to understand what's being communicated, and you need to communicate early enough, right? Communication cannot be overemphasized. One of the things I will tell you is a good example of what impact communication does is, away from tech, go to your relationships and see how communication plays a very, very good role, right? Yeah, but that's on a lighter note. Now, and then I'll bring you back to risk management and time management. Everything has to be key. If you're late, let your stakeholders know. If there's a risk, let your stakeholders know. How you manage your risk depends on, the impact that your project receives depends on how you manage your risk, right? Time management is also key, and as well as resource management. Resource management is not really about your HR and the likes. It's not all about just that. There's more to resource management. Infrastructure is part of resource. Human resource is there. Capacity planning is part of resource. So many other things. But yes, you will get deep dives of all of these things in the training when you actually get on board with Technology. So introducing you to Agile and Scrum now. I think I had talked about Agile. So I don't think there'll be need for us to take a deep dive of this, but take this home and understand that Agile is actually what you make of it if you have an open mindset, right? It's all about change, but change at the same time it can be biased, right? Change can be biased. So I wouldn't just leave it at being all about change, because that makes it vague. It's all about change towards meeting a solution that adds value, right? So the principles of Agile are so much. I wish one person can tell me. I would leave that for anyways. Introduction to Scrum framework. I wouldn't talk about that here, but I need you to understand that there are principles of Agile that helps your day-to-day delivery of your project. It is part of what needs to be a character within you as a project management professional or as an Agile professional. You will also get to experience or learn about the pillars of Scrum and Agile, as the case may be. And I will tell you one funny thing and one valuable thing. There's one thing you can't run away from if you really want to be successful in Agile, and that's transparency and integrity, right? If you want to be successful in Agile, you need these. Now, the different roles in Scrum: product owner, Scrum master, development. This has gotten broad, right? And the first two are very common. Everybody understands that the product owner is, the king of the jungle, right? He owns the product, he manages the product, he understands what needs to be done on that product, right? And that is not to say that he has to be jack of all trades, okay? In the world we live in today, some people do not understand how the product owner operates, right? There is room for delegation of authority, there is room for delegation of responsibilities. The only thing you cannot delegate as a product owner is accountability. And that means whatever happens to that product, regardless who you delegated the room to go and do analysis or to go and find out or do market research and any other thing, whatever happens to that product, you are solely accountable for it. In the same vein, you have your backlogs wherein anybody can contribute, but the decision is solely on you for what is priority to be delivered. Now, for the Scrum Master, yes, this is a very, very interesting role. So underestimated, but you can't actually run away from what a Scrum Master does, right? All the management part of things which we talked about, some way a Scrum Master plays a role. Now, you can have a Scrum team of business analysts, you can have a Scrum team of just programmers, developers, you can have a Scrum team of marketers, you can have a Scrum team of product owners, right? You can have a Scrum team of so many different skill sets. But the thing is, one take home or one takeaway from here is whatever Scrum team you build, ensure to have all the relevant contributors to an achievable goal. It's not just about having a developer on the team, having a QA, having a BA, having that's where you look at it when you just come into tech and trying to deliver softwares or solutions, as the case may be. But depending on what you're trying to achieve, because for example, if you have a project that requires market sales, you need a developer in a Scrum team for market sales? Nothing. What do you need a UX designer in a Scrum team for market sales? Nothing. But you can actually build a Scrum team, a sales team, right? So that's that. And then the development team, like I mentioned, is way broad now. Previously, we used to have that bias that the development team is just the UI, UX designers, the developers, the QAs, and co. It's gone broader than that. You have the BAs today. You have other resources that form part of what needs to be done to achieve any given goal and any given input. Scrum events, sprint planning, daily stand-up, sprint review, sprint retrospectives. This and more we will take into details in our deep dive training sessions. I'm trying to just get fast with this because of we spent more time and I just don't want us to exceed an hour for this. Now the Scrum artifacts, the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and increment. Now I will only talk about an increment. So what is an increment basically? It's additional value from every iteration, right? An increase in every iteration. So take, for example, in economics, you talk about marginal, lost my thoughts there, but there's what we call Marginal utility. Thank you very much. Marginal utility. So an increment is more like a marginal utility for every sprint delivery. Now, one of the bias we get or mites we get in today's world is that every sprint must end with a tangible product. No. But at least every sprint must end with an increase. So if you started a sprint with the need to actually solve a problem, it mustn't be you building a solution. It could just be you deciding that at the end of this sprint, we want to identify what we need to put in place to kick off a project, right? We should be able to achieve something. If it's not realistic, communicate. Communication becomes key at the same time, every time. And that is where you think of how you can then put an end to that project or that sprint, and start a different sprint with a new goal. But you will get a deep dive of how that is done in real life when you join the trainings with Declarator. Now, I will tell you this, in the industry we're in so many parts of the world, everybody has gone and gotten certifications, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing, but I will tell you at Declarator, we're not all about certifications. We're about telling you and showing you how to, right? Real life. So that being said, Scrum Master responsibilities, there's so much, but we've just listed this few: facilitating Scrum events, removing impediments, coaching the team, and a big one, servant leadership. And then the challenges and solutions you will definitely have is common challenges and Scrum adoption. Although, just like I mentioned, it's actually, even in the Scrum guide, you'll be told it's easy to understand, right? But hard to implement. Okay. That doesn't say it's so difficult. It's just that every day you learn and you improve on yourself. But the key thing to you succeeding in Scrum is a mindset, right? Strategies for overcoming these challenges. Can't overemphasize that. Yes, and that brings us to the end of all of this. And now I can take questions, and as well, thank you for listening. So, Jadi, I don't know if there are questions in the comments or if we want to take them audibly. I don't know. But we have less than 10 minutes to actually end this. I'll just take a few questions, I'll respond to them, and then we can actually the session a good one. Jerry, can you hear me?
I think there are no questions for now. I can't see any question. Please, if you have questions, if you can post it to the Q&A or chat feature on your screen.
While the questions come in, or just in case they're having technical difficulties, I would want to mention that there's always a need to, just be part of the trainings that happen with Declarator, because there's usually a mind shift or a mindset shift, right? There's so many things you might hear within Declarator that might just come to you as the first time, okay? And there's so many things you might experience, and you'll be shocked that, oh, this can really happen. I will tell you one of them. Actually putting your foot in the door and getting the best kind of jobs in the tech industry today, you will definitely have the opportunity when you have Declarator as your plug. Now, I don't want to, make it sound like I'm sugarcoating everything, but trust me, doesn't want to be there, right? So, Declarator sits at the critical convergence of technology and education sectors experiencing unprecedented growth globally. And at the same time, distinguished in transforming tech talents into immediate workforce assets. Like I mentioned, you are sure to actually just get into the industry if, I was going to use the word banqueters, but yes, if you bank with us, right? So you would learn more from us. You would have the experience you need, real life experience. We have partners all over that can actually help you learn hands-on. But it's not a cast in stone. It's not just as easy as you make it or we make it sound. There are actually requirements and processes to all of these things. So yes, you would learn this hands-on, you would get skilled, you would see how it works. And one thing I can tell you for sure is that you would love it. Our partnership strategy not only expands our influence, but also significantly boosts our market reach, right? By tapping into corporate training expenditures. So beyond that, I want to quickly go to the last slide because that's where I've always wanted you all to see. So transition courses, which we have, this is to tell you if you're new to tech, if you're new into the space, you don't have a problem. We'll guide you all through. There is no I can't do it in Declarator schemes, right? We will teach you the processes, we will teach you and make you have the experience of an experienced professional. That's what we do here. And for advanced courses, these are for those who are not new to tech. You've had experiences before, but you want to advance those experiences you have, or you want to switch to something else and also solve those problems, right? We're not going to solve it by just telling you how to, but we will show you how to. That being said, we also have customized training solutions, right? It's both for people who have very strict timelines and you want to flexibly work with our partners. So we develop courses for different institutions, both HR institutions, banking institutions, tech institutions, and as well individuals. We have live classes, projects, and all of these things are things that you would have a feel for. Okay, I think this brings us to the end of everything, and I want to say thank you for listening. We have just 5 minutes, and I would hand off the floor to anybody that wishes to say a thing or two. And if there are questions directed, I'll respond to that. And if not, thank you very much for being on this session.
All right. Thank you very much, Israel, for that very educative session. As Israel said, we are Techlerator. We help newbies break into tech, and we also help professionals sharpen their skills in tech. And there is a possibility to get an internship position with one of our partners after your training. That said, we also host webinars like this every Wednesday. The webinar for next week Wednesday will be posted on all our social medias from tomorrow. So you can go ahead and check it out and also sign up to be one of the attendees. Like I said, thank you very much, Israel. That was really educative. I learned one or two. Does anyone have any questions? If you have any questions, you can. All right. Thank you, everyone, once again. Keep an eye out on our social media to see what the topic for the next tech talk will be. I think someone has a question. All right. So would updates We'll post the next tech talk on our social media for next week, Wednesday, and you can go ahead and register when you see it. Thank you everyone for attending once again. Have a nice day. Bye.